You're watching Maryland Politics here on TV Free Baltimore.
Welcome everybody to another edition of Maryland Politics here at TV Free Baltimore Studios here in Lansdowne. And I'm with David Griggs, Libertarian running for United States Congress in District 7. Welcome to the studio, David.
Thank you, Derek. Glad to be here.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, let me start by just getting more familiar with you.
Sure.
You know, can you tell our audience a little bit more about who you are, you know, your background, just a little bit of representation about yourself, please?
Sure, I'd be glad to. I'm David Griggs. I was born in Florida, went to school in Florida. I have 2 degrees from the University of Florida, both in physics. I have a doctorate in physics, and I worked for about 35 years for various government contractors, mainly with the Department of Defense, and for a while for NASA. So I have a strong background in understanding the Defense Department and their activities. I was in acquisition for the Defense Department, supporting acquisitions for the Department of Defense, and I've been a libertarian since the 1970s. The first campaign I ever worked on was about 1972, so it was not long after the Libertarian Party was founded.
Wow.
And I've been a libertarian ever since. Sometimes I could vote libertarian because they appeared on the ballots, and sometimes I couldn't because it's only been recently that there were a lot of libertarian candidates. Mm-hmm. And I decided to take the opportunity to run for the 7th Congressional District for the House of Representatives because I thought it would be a good chance to present libertarian ideas and principles to that constituency. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's time for the 7th District to have a new representative. And I think a libertarian would be a perfect representative for that district.
Sure. Well, in this District 7, or 7th District,
right,
what's going on? I mean, what are the issues? And I'm sure there's some kind of issues, and I'm sure there's some plus sides. So feel free to share both the the pros and cons, or the good and the bad, so to speak, of what's going on in District 7.
Well, District 7 is a district that's very complicated in shape and population. It's by a large margin, a heavily Democratic district. They voted Democratic for the last multiple years in all elections, and it's the only Maryland district that has a majority-minority population. Okay. So it was the goal of when redistricting occurred in 2011 to create a district like that and make 7 of the 8 districts in Maryland be majority Democratic voters.
Oh, it was by design, is what
it was
you're
designed,
okay.
And they voted Democratic for the Democratic candidate since then, and even before. It's a district that's basically consists of 2 distinct parts. It's the eastern area of Baltimore City, a large fraction of Baltimore County, and a large fraction of Howard County. So Baltimore County and Howard counties have different populations.
So it consists of city limit area and Baltimore county area
and
as
county
well?
area, right?
Wow, I never knew that. I always thought a district, would have to be either in the county or the city.
You would think that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean that. I think a lot of people.
The Maryland legislature, in their wisdom, you probably are aware that Maryland was one of the states that was the redistricting plan was reviewed recently by the Supreme Court. A decision hasn't been made, as far as I know, because they have a couple of districts in Maryland that are very, very complex and are conspicuously, what the phrase is, gerrymandered. And so the Supreme Court is going to rule on whether it's actually a legal redistricting.
Wow.
So we'll see how that turns out. It wouldn't affect this election, obviously, what may affect elections in the future.
You've seen a lot since the 1970s,
Yes,
okay?
right.
To have been active
Right.
as an active libertarian for
Right.
so long. A lot of these changes, I'm sure have been good, but I'm pretty sure most of it has been things that you've have drawn questions for you.
Sure.
Can you kind of point out some things that you'd like to see different, or things that you would do if elected? And currently, you would be running against Elijah Cummings, correct?
Yes, Representative Cummings has been there about 25 years. And he's been the representative for that district for that amount of time. And I think that's one of the problems of the district, that they vote Democratic strongly in every election. And I think basically one of my points, one of my jobs, one of my goals is to educate the constituents of that district about why they should seriously think about voting for a libertarian, because I think libertarians offer a lot of positions on issues that would be attractive to the constituents of the district. Both the northern part of the district, that's kind of they have a different set of issues than the southern part, which is in Howard County. But I think in general, a lot of the issues can be well addressed by a libertarian.
I always ask my libertarian guests,
Uh-huh.
I always ask this question because it's generally a similar answer, but a lot of times there are some differences in the reply that I get.
Right.
But as the libertarian movement, do you feel as though a lot of people just don't know enough about what libertarians stand for? Kind of like, Democrats are,
Yes.
It seems like
I think
the way we were taught, more government, less for the people. Even though it wouldn't be admitted, because as the conservative party is, it should be less government,
Right.
more for the people.
Right.
So I'm trying to educate people on what it is to
Yes.
be a libertarian, so they can maybe identify
Yes.
with whether they are one or not.
Yes. The Libertarian Party, I think, is not that difficult to understand. The basic principle is that you have the right to live the life you want to live as long as you don't infringe on somebody else's rights to live their lives. But that's sometimes not obvious how you apply that basic principle to the general populace as a whole. And libertarians see that the best person to make a decision about each individual's life is that individual. And I think we've gotten to the point now that both the major parties, the Democratic and the Republican parties, have differences, but they both think they know best how to run the country. And that includes being involved with your personal dealings. So I think the libertarians consider themselves to be socially liberal and fiscally conservative, which means whatever aspects about your person or your character are completely irrelevant to the rights you have from a libertarian point of view. Everybody, say in the United States, has the same rights. It doesn't matter what color, what gender, what sexual orientation you have exactly the same rights as everybody else. And the government shouldn't be influencing what rights you can express.
So it's classifications. Libertarians believe that both the Democratic and the Republican parties have a way of isolating.
Yes.
Gender, race, color,
Right.
creed, where libertarians are just, is a full blanket covering everybody basically under one umbrella.
Yes.
And I think we've all gotten used to that way of thinking. We all have. Somehow we all try to put ourselves in some kind of classification.
Right.
Which in some cases, maybe it is warranted, especially when it comes to the wealthy on down to who's less wealthy or more poverty stricken. Because once that happens, you automatically fall within a different class bracket because you're in a different financial bracket.
Sure.
So I think it's very, very difficult to not see who and which party might be more in your favor. I mean, would you agree with that? And
yeah. Well, that's the way a lot of voters look at their vote. Which party benefits me the most? And I think if you look at libertarians don't argue that you're going to get a specific benefit because you're a member of a group or a class. You're going to get what the benefit you're going to be provided by a libertarian principled government is that you're going to get the choices that you want to make. You get to decide how best to run your life. The
choices. See, and this is what something Charles Wesley has been trying to pound in my head for a while now. Mm-hmm. What else is your concern? What other major things out there do you feel as though the Libertarian Party, not just yourself, because it's a whole movement of getting people on board. What all do we all need to become or join in conjunction with to help improve the quality of life?
Well, something I mentioned previously was that the libertarian position is that you were born with, as the Declaration of Independence says, a set of unalienable rights basically given to you by your Creator. And you get those sort of when you become a human, okay? And that means that whatever kind of human you are, whether you're black or white or Chinese or Filipino or male or female or something in between or gay or homosexual, those are completely immaterial to what your rights are. All your rights are the same as anybody else. As long as you use your rights without infringing on other people's rights. We're fortunate to live in the United States with a very good Constitution. You know, it's only got a small number of amendments to it. And the point of the Constitution is to limit government power. And the fact that we have a Bill of Rights which lists certain rights that we have, that was an attempt by the founders to make sure that future governments knew that these rights were existent, not that they were a list of all the rights that an American citizen had, but these are ones that they thought were the most important to identify at that time.
Right, and that's why they came up with those laws and those rights.
You know, for example, there's a lot of controversy these days about the interpretation of the Second Amendment, where it says the right
to bear arms,
the own and bear arms. Libertarians are very own anything, as long as you don't make it dangerous where it's being dangerous to your neighbors or your friends or to another citizen.
Being reckless.
But owning something is a right. Using it in a dangerous way is not a right.
Not a right. I wish you the best of luck in your efforts in obtaining that major seat in office.
Right.
I'd like for you to just, before we end this particular conversation, just one more time, give your website or any means of accessing you for the public, just so they can reach you and maybe somehow somebody might be able to help funding, or just be there support when it comes time for the voting and all. So yeah, just tell our TV Free audience one more time your website and some other means of accessing you.
Okay, it's for Maryland7th.com. I also have a Twitter account at Griggs for MD7. That's GRIGGS. The number 4, MD, and then 7. You can access my Twitter account from my webpage. And on my webpage, you'll see my positions on several issues, and also a way to communicate with me and a way to donate to my campaign. If you see that I would make a good candidate, I'd appreciate your contributions, and any comments you make, I'll try to respond to. So, Derek, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me, and I enjoyed having the conversation with you.
You're watching Maryland Politics here on TV Free